My name is Lenah Mukai. I am so many things. First of all, I am a lawyer by profession. I'm also a mom. Over the course of my career, I have done so many things, but at the moment, I am a voice that God is raising to speak for children with microcephaly and their families.
How did you come up with the name Care Beyond Limits?
Microcephaly is a disease that is quite unknown. It is a condition that is quite rare. It affects very little population. And in as much as it's forgotten, it's rare, not many people know about it, it still deserves care. The children and the families that are in this journey deserve care. And care that is beyond limits. We can't just stop at diagnosis. We can't just stop at, of course, treatment in relation to orphan drugs. We have to think beyond, of course, diagnosis, of course, treatment. We have to rehabilitate, we have to support. So that's when I thought maybe Care Beyond Limits would be a perfect name for this organization.
How do you explain microcephaly to someone hearing it for the first time?
Microcephaly is basically a condition whereby a baby's head is way smaller compared to the normal size of the head of a child when they're born.
What are the misconceptions people have with the children living with microcephaly?
So when people see children with microcephaly, they tend to think it is some form of a curse or some form of witchcraft that was done maybe to the mother before they give birth to the child, or some sort of like a blood lineage or blood issues in terms of bloodlines or generations. So those are just a few things that I've actually come to find out when people see children with microcephaly, and they tend to believe it is those things.
How serious is the impact of microcephaly on families, especially in Africa?
There are a lot of challenges because one, in Kenya, microcephaly is not recognized by the government. So caregivers and families are left to tend to the children by themselves. There's no awareness. There's a lot of stigma, of course, from the communities around these children. Many of these families are quite impoverished, so they're not able to afford the proper, of course, rehabilitation and support systems so that they can be able to take care of these children. So you find the families are struggling. The children don't receive proper medication to, of course, stabilize them, because as we've come to find out, there's no cure for microcephaly, but we can rehabilitate and support. So there's just a lot of challenges. There's, of course, barrier. And in terms of barriers, we are talking about barriers to diagnosis, barriers to treatment. Of course, there are orphan drugs that are there, but for these children to access those drugs, a lot of course, money is spent, which is not there. So you find these children can't afford because they're not from families that are able to afford these drugs. And when the drugs are being made, they're costly because the governments are not supporting orphan drugs being made, because orphan drugs are for rare diseases. And when there's no enough, let's say enough incentive for them to be made, when they are made, they're quite costly.
Why is it important to raise awareness about microcephaly now?
These children are struggling, their families are struggling. It is a condition that is overlooked, but it is prevalent. It's a rare disease, but it's prevalent. 1 out of 10,000 kids is born with microcephaly, and there's no care beyond diagnosis. So we find so many families struggling. These children are being hidden because of stigma. Some are being killed. Some are being thrown in forests, in oceans, water bodies. They cannot be found because their families are stigmatized. The communities are stigmatizing these children and their families. There's no enough awareness. Hence, a voice needs to be there to speak for them so that we can forge a way forward in being able to, of course, advocate and see how they can be helped.
How does Care Beyond Limits support children and families living with microcephaly?
We are at the very foundational basis as a foundation. At the moment, we have a pilot initiative whereby we want to map and, of course, get that, the correct data, because there's no correct data when it comes to microcephaly. It is not a known condition, as I mentioned earlier, so we have no registry where we can get the correct data. So what we want to do as Care Beyond Limits is being able to, of course, do a pilot mapping initiative whereby we'll go around Kenya, collecting information in health facilities, of course, government health, of course, centers, in rural areas, throughout like the 47 counties, so that we can be able to meet these children and their families and get the right data.
How does your team create awareness in communities where information about microcephaly is limited?
At the moment, we have a team of volunteers who we are working with to create systems that we can use in being able to create awareness. As I mentioned earlier, we are quite new, so we are just building capacity and being able to, of course, understand what we need to do in terms of raising awareness.
What role do your government and health institutions should play to support families affected by microcephaly?
Definitely care beyond diagnosis. It is key that government institutions come in advocating for policies that are going to be quite inclusive when we talk about microcephaly. Being able to put the disease in the bigger, of course, map, and being able to create that advocacy and being able to speak for it so that it can be included in, of course, the health initiatives that, of course, governments have in terms of course, treatments and rehabilitation and, of course, overall inclusion.
As we come to the end of this interview, can you give us your parting shot?
Microcephaly is rare, but it's quite prevalent. A lot of families are suffering because of this condition. Children are not getting quality care. They're not having, of course, quality education, quality health care because of, number one, lack of awareness. Number two, definitely poverty. Number three, they're not seen. They're quite overlooked and underserved. So as Care Beyond Limits, we want to do away with that and create a society that is quite inclusive when it comes to rare diseases, and especially microcephaly.